As far as I'm concerned, if you hate our country, if you're not happy here, you can leave. And that's what I say all the time. That's what I said in a tweet, which I guess some people think is controversial. A lot of people love it. If you're complaining all the time, very simply, you can leave. You can leave right now.
So that from the South Lawn yesterday. House Democrats getting ready today to debate this resolution, which would condemn the president's tweet, saying the 4 members of Congress should, quote, go back to where they came from. Wyoming Senator John Barrasso is on the Foreign Relations Committee. We brought him on to talk about this and also the ongoing matter with Iran. So we're going to get to all of it. Senator, how are you? Good morning to you there in Washington,
Thanks,
D.C.
Bill. Thanks for having me.
You guys had a private meeting yesterday with the senators. What you talk about with regard to the tweets, and what did you come away from that?
Well, you know, so many of us said we're not going to comment on every tweet, but for me, this doesn't fit the sentiments that I have. I would much rather be focused on the policies rather than the people. And the policies are terrible. They're left-wing policies, radical policies, extreme policies that I think would hurt our country in terms of the Green New Deal, in terms of Medicare for all, in terms of open borders. So we're talking about the things that unite us, which is we have a strong, healthy, growing economy, and those are the things we ought to be talking about.
Okay, so what the president would argue is that he would say this isn't personal as politics. Do you see it more personal than politics based on that answer?
Well, the way I like to do things is dealing with the policy. I'm happy to label the policy because it is extreme. It's so far out of the mainstream of America, and certainly what I hear about in Wyoming every weekend, that for many people it's scary. It's not where this country needs to be headed. We need to be headed in the way we are heading right now. Take a look at where we are. It's 50 years since the launch of the flight to the moon today. Our economy is the strongest it's been since that day. Unemployment numbers way down, wages way up. It's a result of the policies that we have put in place under this president and a Republican-controlled Senate.
So this has to serve as a huge distraction for you then. If you can't talk about the policies and you're taking questions on this instead, Senator.
Well, my goal is to talk about the policies. I'd rather talk about what Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are talking about with health care, which is going to make health care more expensive, people losing control of their health care decisions, longer waiting times. I think those are the policy issues we ought to be discussing. The Green New Deal would be a big green bomb blowing up this strong, healthy, growing economy. And what's happening at the borders in terms of the Democrats who want to get rid of ICE and the Department of Homeland Security, which was set up after 9/11 to help keep us safe, and say, eliminate it? I mean, you can't have a country with national security if you don't have border security.
Well,
they're saying, let them all in.
It sounds like a campaign issue, and we will push further on that as we move forward. In the meantime, one major issue is Iran. Here's the foreign minister yesterday saying they'll talk, but remove the sanctions first. Give this a listen from NBC.
I think the United States is playing with fire. Had we wanted to develop nuclear weapons, we would have been able to do it a long time ago. In any negotiations, you need to find a win-win situation. Otherwise, you'll end up with a lose-lose situation.
That, Senator? Is there a door cracked open here?
Well, I would hope so. The sanctions have been working. They have been biting sanctions. The economy is reeling in Iran. You know, I was off the coast of Iran last week with our naval troops on the USS Abraham Lincoln. That ability to show force is something that will also drive Iran to a negotiating table. But I think it's much more important that they talk and negotiate before sanctions are relieved. Their goal is sanction relief. That's not our goal. Our goal is Iran without a nuclear weapon. They are on the path to that weapon. The Iran deal was a bad deal for a number of reasons. It gave money for terrorism. It allowed them to continue with their ballistic missile program. So no one wants war. America is prepared, if necessary, to go there. That is the last option, not the first. And what I heard in the Persian Gulf area over the weekend, Bill, was that President Trump's decision to not take military action was so well received in the area, it actually unified countries, allies of ours in the area, against Iran, seeing them as the aggressors.
Well, here's what I heard was interesting from Zarif. Had we been interested in developing nuclear weapons, we would have been able to do that a long time ago. And I think the reference was back to 2003. But just that last clip, Senator, one more comment on this. How do you get to a win-win? For Iran, I would guess you take the sanctions up. And for the U.S. and the rest of the world is that you lower the level of uranium enrichment and you prove it with verification. Is that a win-win?
No, it is. They want the sanctions to be relieved first. I don't want that to happen at all. I want the sanctions to be there to continue to pressure them to make that first move. Maybe they have done it now with their willingness to talk. It's time to start talking. Let's do the talking before the sanctions come off to see what, in fact, you're going to get.
Senator, thank you for your time. John Barrasso from Wyoming, thank
Thanks,
you,
Bill.
sir, for coming back to our program here. Thank you, Sandra.
Google.
Thanks.